It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline. Okay, now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily with positive vibes. Yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews. You never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Positive Vibes only segment here on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington. If you notice, it is just me here. Yes, we are doing things a little bit differently around all the protests and Black Lives Matter conversation that I've been having. I felt like it was best for this week to just talk to you. And so, of course, by now, I'm sure you have seen the horrific video of the murder of George Floyd as Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin had his knee to his back and his neck for over 8 minutes, and that eventually resulted in his death. In the course of May, we saw George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. We have seen racial injustice in our country for centuries. And I think the biggest thing that I want to stress to you guys is why this is so important now to have this conversation. We just recently celebrated the 99-year anniversary of the Tulsa race attacks, the devastating racial attacks on society in Tulsa 99 years ago that resulted in the death of around 300 Black people. This is nothing new, what we are seeing with George Floyd's death. This is just the latest that we've seen. Now, there are several cases that have been swept under the rug that we do not know about. There have been several stories that have not been told. Racial injustice is nothing new to our society. And I was having the conversation, I said this earlier in the week on an Instagram video that I did and a YouTube video I did, with the fact that I grew up learning about Emmett Till. I grew up learning about the Birmingham church bombing. I grew up learning about these things. My nephew is going to grow up, he's 2 years old, learning about Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, you know, the different names, you name it, Philando Castile, the names that we have hashtagged and that we have been protesting around. So the biggest thing that I've been trying to stress to people that just are unaware, to educate them, is to let them know we're tired as Black Americans are tired. Our injustice stems back to slavery. We came into this country not willingly as slaves brought across by boat, being brought into this country where we were treated like property, treated less than an animal, not treated as humans. Slavery was emancipated, but it did not just wipe away racism and discrimination altogether. Over the centuries, we have seen the fight for slavery to now allow us to come back into society and be human, and then into segregation and racial injustice, and then women's rights we've also seen. It hasn't always just been a black and white thing. The arguments, the fights have also been within gender equality, within sexual orientation equality, being able to love and marry and start a family with whoever you'd like, regardless your gender and their gender. So the fight for peace, the fight for justice, the fight for equality is nothing new. It's just this is the most recent protest. And so I've had a lot of people that have commented and reached out from all different backgrounds, just completely, whether just having conversation, asking questions, or in some cases being ignorant to the fact that the Black Lives Matter protest is not a violent one. I do not condemn violence by any means. I am not saying that people should go out and riot and loot. What I'm saying is we need to peacefully protest. And we have been peacefully protesting. When Colin Kaepernick took a knee, the world was up in arms because it's sports. You're not supposed to bring politics here. He was peacefully protesting, similar to how we saw sit-ins decades ago, people having sit-ins, which was a peaceful protest. We have tried to peacefully protest as Black Americans, and it has been rejected. NBA players wearing I Can't Breathe shirts. I'm sure you have seen the images of our attempts at peaceful protests over the last decades that have been rejected. We have tried to have the conversation, and it has not been heard. So much like Dr. Martin Luther King said, rioting comes from a group of people who feel like they have not been heard. It is the only way that people feel like their points can get across. So I am not saying that rioting and looting is the correct thing to do. I am saying it is the result of a demographic, in this case, Black Americans, feeling like they have not been heard. Everyone reacts differently. Everyone reacted differently to watching George Floyd's death play out on social media and him become a hashtag, watching his family emotionally talk about the loss of their brother, their uncle, their loved one. Everyone reacts differently. For me, it's using my platform, this show, social media, having my new show, Redefining Us, to be able to have these conversations. But not everybody is reacting the same way. So I also encourage you guys to remember that, for one, you can't control how people react to feeling upset. So in this case, people are distraught. But as a Black person, I am exhausted. It is exhausting being Black in America. So you cannot expect that we're going to just take this like a slap on the wrist and keep moving on as if it's nothing. We are human. We have feelings. We have emotions. We have a right to be upset. So that is my only issue with everyone trying to control how we are supposed to respond to the fact that our brothers and sisters are being killed, innocent and being killed. The legal system is innocent until proven guilty, not killed, and then we address and see if you're innocent. That is not the way that the justice system is supposed to work. And it's not fair that for centuries we have been fighting for life. We're not even just fighting for equal opportunities. We're fighting for life. So I always say, turn the tables to your side. Put yourself in our shoes. Imagine having to go out in this world fearing for your life, fearing that you are going to be racially profiled, fearing that being pulled over by a cop is going to lead to your death and you becoming a hashtag, fearing for your child, your parents, your siblings, that every time they go out into this world, they are fighting for their lives. And that is how black and white I can put this. This protest is a matter of life and death. This has nothing to do with rioting and stealing. This is Black America, Black Lives Matter, people that are supporting the cause, fighting for the freedom for Black Americans to live. And also keep in mind that everyone that is rioting and protesting is not Black, and more importantly, not a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. There are a lot of groups, protest groups, that are using this as a way to sabotage the Black Lives Matter movement and also to get their own agendas across. So I've been seeing videos of people flipping cars and burning things down and breaking windows and breaking into businesses. That is not Black Lives Matter. There are cases, yes, it is Black Lives Matter, but do not stereotype and say all rioters and all looters are Black people and Black Lives Matter, because you know what that's called? Racism. And it's very racist to hear people saying, how can I support meaning me, Renee Washington, a Black American, how am I supporting the Black Lives Matter protest? Because that means I'm supporting violence and rioting and looting. And the two do not go hand in hand. Just like another thing that a lot of people keep saying, why is it that we are now protesting against police officers killing our innocent Black men and women when there are high rates of Black on Black crime? I actually had someone that was reaching out, commenting, saying, well, look, in Chicago, there's all this Black on Black crime, and sharing the number of people that have abortions throughout the year. Regardless what side of the ticket you are, pro-life or not, abortion is legal. So that does not compare to what we're talking about here. And more importantly, when is it ever okay to defend one crime with another crime? So because George Floyd's death happened and we watched him die at the hands of a police officer, are we supposed to sweep that under the rug and ignore it because Black on Black crime exists? Because I also was not raised under the precedent that one crime cancels out another crime. And it's racist to immediately defend the lives that are being lost at the hands of our justice system because Black on Black crime exists. And I'm going to take a step back. Black on Black crime exists where? In highly overpopulated, impoverished, urban communities of minorities where they don't have the same opportunities. I went to a private school for high school. I had classmates that had helicopters, trains, their own private island, multiple houses, mansions. Their first car was a Range Rover or a BMW. And then I also know that people, including my own relatives, that are struggling just to make ends meet, not knowing where their next meal is coming from, struggling to keep a roof over their head, struggling to be able to have clothes to put on their back, having to deal with issues like abuse, incarceration, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, lack of education. There is a cycle in the Black community that cannot be broken, because if you are a child, a fatherless son turns into an absent father. So if you are a child growing up in a household where you are living in a small house for your entire family, you don't have enough money and your single mother does not have enough money that she makes from her 2 jobs, from her 2 shifts she works all day to support your family. Your father is incarcerated or not around. And then on top of that, you, as one of the oldest, have to raise your siblings. So now you're coming home in 4th grade, having to take care of your other siblings, put food on the table, get your homework done. Meanwhile, there's no adult present. And if there are adults present, sometimes those adults may not even have an education higher than high school. And I'm not saying this is across the board. I'm just giving you examples. There are households in these communities where parents do not have education. The household does not make enough to support an entire family in terms of food and medicine, taking them to doctors, giving them tutors and things like that. Are you kidding? Tutors? And paying for private schools and paying for extracurricular activities? That is not the same type of childhood that my classmates in my private school grew up with. So from the beginning, please do not get it twisted, where kids are not given the same opportunity. That is white privilege at its core. Growing up in a 2-parent household where you never have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, or you never have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able, the lights are going to be on in your house, or you're going to have heat in the middle of the winter, or if you're going to be, your parents have a car to even get to work to get you to school, or not having to worry about the safety of walking home from school because you don't live in a drug infested or gang area. These are things that certain communities, primarily white communities, do not have to worry about. So I don't expect you, if you're coming from that background, to understand what white privilege is. And I don't expect you to understand what institutional racism is and how we are behind the 8 ball from the beginning. So I say this all to say to you guys, please, please, please stop dismissing what we are arguing and protesting at the root of this cause. Protesting violence, looting is not the answer. Black on Black crime is not okay. And the numbers are way higher than I would like. And honestly, having had people that I know directly affected and lives directly lost to Black on Black crime, I hope that number one day goes down. I do also know institutional racism does exist. We as Black Americans are behind the 8 ball. We do not have a fair chance. The answer is not to just go get a job. It's not that easy. It's not. And there are so many layers to this beyond just a quick fix. That's why it's taking us this long to get to this point. And it's going to continue to take us time. But we have to change our mindset. So my thing is, what can you do to help the process of change? How can you help make our country the land of the free, home of the brave, where everyone does truly have the equal opportunity to pursue happiness, a life of liberty, justice, success, and life, more importantly, to live. And I know I asked some people on social media their thoughts. And I know Shaheem Sutherland from Miami, Florida was saying how he's using his social media platform to just have conversations with people. He's talking about it on his show. He's talking about it on the work that he puts out. I know that I had Alex Pico from Pennsylvania who was adamantly talking about the need for change and expressing things that he thinks need to happen to make rules a little tighter and make laws and put laws in place that'll hold our justice system accountable, our law enforcement officials accountable. And I know a lot of people, we had Blackout Tuesday where everybody took a break from social media, posting selfies and things, and was posting more about Black Lives Matter and promoting people that are doing good in the Black community and just promoting positivity, promoting the Black Lives Matter protests and all the peaceful and successful and encouraging things that we need to hear and see. I know it's very painful for me to see the videos of our country so divided, with people getting pepper sprayed. I know a friend of mine that's a journalist, her colleague lost an eye because a tear gas canister was thrown at him, and he actually had to get surgery. And who knows how he will recover from this. There are lives that have been lost during these protests, businesses that have been completely rioted, windows broken into. There is so much going on. But at the root cause, we are all fighting for peace, justice, and the opportunity to live a fair life. I should not have to walk outside and fear for my life because of the color of my skin. And I said this before, there are enough things in this world to fear: cancer, diabetes, and health issues. I know everyone has different genetic issues and and underlying health issues that are fearful. For me, it's breast cancer. I have had a number of relatives that have died from some form of cancer or heart attacks. There are enough issues around the fear when you get behind the wheel or in a car that you have to hope that everyone around you is paying attention and not texting and driving or drinking and driving or whatever else. There's enough fears, especially as females, when you're walking by yourself, that you're going to safely get from one point to another. So I remind you guys to please change your mindset. I know through the Me Too movement, there's been a lot of discussions about rape and about how some people feel that women encourage rape based on how they dress or how they act. And she asked for it. She wanted it. Just like no woman, regardless how they dress or act, wants to be raped. No Black person, regardless how they look or where they come from, deserves to be killed just because of what they look like. So let that sink in. For those of you that are quick to judge that all Black on Black crime happens, I come from a suburban 2-parent household. Both of my parents have degrees. My mom has 2 masters. Two of my sister and I have a master's. My other sister is pursuing her PhD. We come from a very educated family, a very educated background. We did not have to worry as much as some relatives, friends, and people I know financially. I was fortunate to go to a private school, but I've had to fight every day of my life because of the way that I look, because I'm a double minority. So regardless what your background is, unless you are, I'm not even going to say even celebrities and the richest Black Americans still at times are put in their place in the fact that you're reminded you are a minority. You're reminded, in my case, I'm a double minority as a Black woman, as a Black person that played soccer, a predominantly white person, as a Black person, a Black woman that's working in sports where most people around me are older white men, and I'm a younger Black woman. So you're constantly being reminded how you look. So it's time to change the narrative. We need to have more conversations around it. So for those of you that are wondering, what can I do? Here's some things you can do. Let's promote each other and support each other. Let's have more conversations. There have been some great social media threads. I know I've even had some great conversations with people around things I've seen, things I felt. Let's just talk to each other. It's uncomfortable, but all change is uncomfortable. And it's not going to happen if we try to stay in our comfort zone. Change happens most when you are uncomfortable. So it is time for us to talk about the elephant in the room: race, gender, inequality, racism, discrimination, equal opportunity. It is time to talk about it. So let's have these conversations. I've had people that have reached out to me that are friends of mine through text, and we just were texting about different things. Or on social media, I've had more conversations with strangers in the last week than ever before. True conversations where we had just talked about things, talked about whatever. So let's have these conversations around race. Let's be more open. And when someone tells you that something is racist, it doesn't mean you are racist. It means that your comment might be racist, or your comment might be sexist, or what you're thinking or doing might be sexist, racist, or discriminatory in some way. So do not take it personally if someone says that's racist, because we need to be more open to change. And that starts with us calling each other out respectfully, of course, calling each other out and letting each other know if you think something someone says or does is going to be perceived as discriminatory in some way or offensive in some way, just like bullying, just like harassment. We all at the corporate America level have been through the harassment HR meetings and sessions that you have to have, and how harassment is perceived by the person that is feeling harassed. It's the same thing with racism. I might feel like you are saying something racist to me as a Black person, and you might not think it's racist, but it doesn't really matter what you think if I feel discriminated. Much like with harassment, if I feel sexually harassed and you think you're just innocently joking, who's right in that situation? So it is perception, and it's time that we be more open-minded to that. So let's have the conversation. Let's change the mindset. Let's stop dismissing one crime with another crime. 2 crimes don't make a right, just like 2 wrongs don't make a right. And let's make sure we're not condoning looting, rioting, violence, racism, discrimination of any kind. Be willing to call people out. And if someone wants to block you on social media or unfriend you on social media because of it, oh well. But at least you're standing up for what's right. And it's always the right time to do what is right. Dr. King said that. Integrity is not about doing what's right when it's convenient. It's not about doing what's right when it fits you. It's about doing what's right all the time, regardless who's looking, regardless how it affects you. So let's have these conversations. Let's stand up. There have been petitions. People have been writing articles. People have been sharing videos just to voice what they're feeling. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, because for Black America, we have been uncomfortable our entire lives. So for those of you that are just feeling this, welcome to what it's like being Black in America. This is just a taste of what it's like being Black in America. So I'm hoping that this is a time for change. I'm hoping that the cycle is ending. We've seen Dr. King, Malcolm X, John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, the Tulsa racial attacks, Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till, now George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. The names, the list goes on and on back centuries for all the people that have fought this fight or have lost their lives in the fight. It is time for us to change the narrative, change society, and be more inclusive. So guys, I hope this week we're reflecting, we're finding ways to make change using our platforms to voice and make change happen, because it starts with us. Let's be the generation. Let's be the era that is known, just like when the emancipation of slavery and when the abolition of slavery, and when we saw integration happen. Let's be a part of making history, of change in a positive way. I know we can do it. Through social media, we are all connected around the world in many ways, more than we ever could have imagined. And I'm encouraged by this. I'm encouraged by the amount of conversations we're having. So thank you all for tuning in to our Positive Vibes Only segment here on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington. I hope that you guys stay safe, stay healthy. COVID-19 is still going on. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. So as you're protesting, as you're gathering, please be safe. And let's make sure that we make our future brighter and better, safer, more justice, more peace for the next generation, for our children and our children's children. That is the dream.